Pasha Pyro, YNet7. Thank you for tuning the replay. Got a great guest and a great topic today. What we're going to be discussing, we're going to title it Account Management, question mark, conversation. And
Hey.
the basis of this is good conversation, a lost art, and how do we find it? So, for starters, I want to bring on my guest today, the one, the only, Elise Sadler, aka Honeybee.
Hi.
Elise, go ahead, take a moment and let everybody know who you are and what you got going on.
Greetings and salutations, good people. Again, I was introduced so lovely by, thank you so very much. My name is Elise Sadler, aka Honeybee, and I am the creator of the Combo L&E podcast. It's lifestyle and entertainment podcast where we literally dive into the art of conversing because it's a lost art or a lost skill, I should say, that a lot of people I feel like have fallen back from. So, what we do is we encourage people to be a part of the movement of being able to sit down and take a journey with someone through a conversation. So it's about living your truth, owning your truth. In a world filled with make believe, it's really hard sometimes to distinguish what's real and what's not. And we get lost in that process. So it's about embracing and empowering people to be who they are, live their truth, share their perspectives and their experiences. And we all learn from one another.
Absolutely, absolutely. So I like that you. I like your bravery, L. I'm gonna call you L. I
Oh,
like the EL. You know, that's
oh,
that's that
that's
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 that Yahweh
cool.
up in there. All right, so I like your bravery coming on here. You picked a great topic, and as I mentioned to you, I'm a fan of at certain points, letting the other people choose a topic. I'm not one of the people that's like, this is what we're going to talk about. Prepare yourself. You know what I mean? Because
Right, right.
for me, it's fun to see how the one thing that I'm learning to master in the process of mastering, which is the law of attraction,
Hmm.
actually applies in whoever picks what topic. You know what I'm saying? Because it's a universal law. So we just did on YNet7. We just did blind question mark topic, and we learned how the word topic basically means position. Okay.
Okay.
So tell me what brought you to the topic for today of conversation, and is it a lost art?
So honestly, I feel like conversation, communication, it's changing because of technology. I don't think it's lost, so to say, but I'll use the word lost because I don't think people are understanding of how to navigate through it. And so healthy communication and communication, it's two different things.
Mm.
So I mean, communication is an umbrella, but you can have healthy communication, you can have dysfunctional communication, you can have unhealthy communication. And so as far as the skills is concerned, so for me, I thought it was important because I love connection. I think I'm one of those people who believe heart, soul, and spirit that we are connected to everything and all thing that exists through through this existence, through this lifetime. And so, because I'm a big believer in that, it's important for people to understand how they should communicate with the things that they want to connect with.
Mm-hmm.
And I think a lot of times we are not fully able to embrace the things that we really want passion wise, love, um, hobbies, all of those things. We're not really fully able to connect because we're not fully able to communicate clearly and effectively what it is that we're looking for. So, I mean, I guess I thought because this whole COVID-19 thing, it
Mm-hmm.
would be a good opportunity to explain or to just talk to people, make them aware of communication, and allow them an opportunity to see, is it lost? Like, I just wanted to discuss. You are an amazing guy, and I just really wanted to kind of pick your brain about how you felt about the topic as well too.
I appreciate that. I appreciate that. So let's start with what. See now, what I like to do, because we can, as a whole, different people. Everybody's got basically a different idea, which means there's an infinite amount of ideas of what conversation actually is.
Mm-hmm.
Just like any other topic, I'm a man of equations, not the variables. So when you look at the equations, you can see the whole graph, and it kind of takes the emotional part out of it. and you don't really
Mm-hmm.
deal in opinions. You deal in what you could say is facts or laws, right?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so let's see what is a what is the basis of a conversation. What does that word actually mean to you? Just the word itself.
To me, it means dialogue. It means sending and receiving. It means expression. So, to me, conversation is communicating. It's having dialogue in communication about whatever. Honestly, it's seeking to understand, receiving, and it's being able to be open to what's being said as well too. Like
Mhm.
it's educational, it's knowledge. That's what conversation is to me.
Okay, so you're familiar with the law of attraction, correct?
Correct.
How familiar are you with etymology?
Not too familiar, but well, familiar enough.
Okay, so where this all ties in together for those who may be joining the show for the first time, um, the etymology factor I know is a large part of the law of attraction
Mm-hmm.
because the words have the values that we're looking for, and if we use a word, we're attracting the reality of what that word actually means, what that construct is, whether we realize what that is or not. You see what I'm saying?
Yes.
Okay, so that presents the opportunity for some confusion on the user's part, user's error syntax, right?
Correct.
Okay, so let's take a look at the vibration of the word conversation.
Okay.
So here we see that it actually comes from the root word converse.
Mm-hmm.
And I like how you were saying it's a sending and receiving because it you really got to dig this one a little deeper than we've done with some of the other words because it's a massive idea. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
So converse, despite what we how we were taught to use it today, is actually to live or dwell.
Mm-hmm.
So with that being said, I really like how you were talking about it's key for the community, for relationships, health. You can have unhealthy relationships, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera, right?
Right.
Because it's all conversational.
Mm-hmm.
So you live or die based on the conversation. The idea, the feeling that you're trying to embrace, the concept, the activity, it all lives or dies in especially in the people you're trying to share it with, that emotion, feeling, idea, concept, based
Right.
on how well your dialogue is, like you said, the word dialogue, right?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So then if you look down here, conversation, about halfway through, the converse definition is actually a living together, a manner of behaving, right?
Mm-hmm.
Now, those familiar with some of my explanations is with the etymology, they be like, people often say, hey, look, that's not what the words mean today. That's not how we're using them, right?
Right. Right. Mm-hmm.
And what you got to understand with that, and I was really impressed when I saw the definition or how the etymology of converse number two,
Uh-huh.
because I've always told people you got to look at the letters. The letters are actually representations or characters that represent numbers, right?
Mm-hmm.
So that makes a word an equation, and that's how you're able to graph it. It has a certain frequency, just like every other energetic existence in our realm. True?
True. So we often say words have power.
Yes.
But oftentimes we say that, and I think a lot of times we speak that and we say that, but we don't really understand the context of what that power is. Only through our own experiences do we really grasp what that really means. But there are so many other experiences that extend beyond our own. And if you don't have knowledge, like the etymology is a beautiful way for someone who really wants to dig down into the meaning and the history and the why behind what a word is, because I'm a semantics person.
Okay.
So, with me being a semantic person, words matter. Words matter in the order in which you say them as well too, because I'm going to take you at your words.
Right. Right.
Your actions may be one thing, but your words are another as well too. So when someone starts talking to me word wise, I'm like, okay, I'm holding you accountable not just on your actions, but definitely on your words as well too, because sometimes your actions has not manifested yet, but your words have.
Yeah, you're creating an expectation with the word because that's what you're focusing the attraction point on. That's what your tangent of interest is.
Right.
Absolutely. So you're giving life to the destination that you want to dwell in, right? See,
I
live,
like that.
dwell, life, dwell.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So if we go back to the words being an equation and look at the second definition for converse in mathematics, okay. Now I know
Mm-hmm.
it says later on turned around, but we could stop there and just show in mathematics you're dealing with frequencies, energies, sign, everything's an energy, like attracts like. All right.
Right.
So now I just put the last two down there at the bottom just because it was like it ran on, and I was like, okay, conversion, which
Mm-hmm.
is from the same like kind of root, is turning. It was originally turning of a sinner to righteousness. Now, I'm not religious, you know,
Mm-hmm.
but I thought that was very, very appropriate because conversations are used to either build or deceive. You see what I'm saying?
Right. Uh-huh.
There's a movement there. It's like motion, right?
Mm-hmm.
Because when we get into live, right?
Mm-hmm.
Talk, everybody kind of knows what talk is, but it's an account and story. Live, you kind of know what that is, and then dwell is to remain, stay, reside. So if topic is your current position,
Mm-hmm.
as we covered last time, that's where you
Right.
reside right now. That's your position until you move, right?
Mm-hmm.
And what gets you moving? The conversation.
Right.
Okay. So here go talk and account. Because this is pretty cool. This is how we got to the title, which today's title is. Where we at with that? Bum, 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 bum. Account management.
Mm.
See, just like your bank account, right?
Right.
We're gonna have deposits, right?
Mm-hmm.
You want to deposit some information into people. You might
Right.
want to withdraw some information to people. You might have some ETFs, third party. You know what I'm saying? To come in and
Right.
build or destroy it. You gotta be aware of all that. So, real quick, let's go over this talk and an account just briefly. All right. So,
Okay.
talk, like we said, means account or tale. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
And then account is about calculate and compute originally. So that goes back to the mathematics. You see what I'm saying? So
Mm-hmm.
as you were speaking about earlier, you're living through experiences, and in sharing those experiences, you're really computing, calculating, and
Right.
then you see what I'm saying?
Right.
It's easily translated into a mathematic concept. Okay, so I know I just dumped a lot on you and the YNet 7 crew. So
Hey, it's all right. We're gonna dive into it.
let's get into it. Where are you at with it now after you've looked over the vibrations and the frequencies of the actual words at play?
Um, so I guess just going back to just back into digging into the nature of it all. It's like even talking about conversation and understanding how all of these things connect and how the deposits and the withdrawals at the end of the day we have a conscious and we have a subconscious
Mm-hmm.
and we have this mainframe of a thing called a brain and words are being deposited in us through a conversation
Mm-hmm.
and we're listening so and again it can be a third party conversation because even when we're children and we not yet know how to formulate these words we're still hearing these conversations and the conversations in which we are hearing we're literally taking those words for what we're looking for what they actually mean or how they're computing to us. And then
Keys.
say that one more
Keys.
time.
The
Yes, keys.
keys.
Keys. Yep. Yep. So we're looking
Go ahead.
it's almost like a map with a legend. You know what I'm saying? So you're kind of looking to see how they're going to compute to you. And then when you grow up you start to learn, okay, well, this word I heard, it looked like I had a key for this word because this is what what I had thought it was based off of my exposure and my experience. But then I get into school, and or I get around peers and I have a Webster a definition of what it actually means. So now I have to compare that with my mainframe to see, okay, is it added definition? Is that what it is? Like, is it added definition? Because I have my own interpretation of what it is. I have my own definition or my own key of what it is because of my experience. But then now I'm having all of these other different things to compare it to. So a lot of times in conversation, I have to ask people exactly what it is that they mean by the words in which they're saying, because not everybody digs down into what the word truly means.
Yes, you touched on earlier that we have to or people in general are computing what it actually means to them, those words that you're saying. And that
Mhm.
in itself lies the danger, because there's a quote there by someone anonymous that says every good conversation starts with, originally it said good listening,
Mhm.
right? What
Then
is
they
good
changed it.
listening? I changed
Yeah.
it. I put
Okay.
the X
I
on it.
feel
I
you.
put active, because the key word is active. I had the luxury of being in a credit card environment, call center, for the pretty big people like Discover Card, etc., for well over a decade, and they invest a lot of money into training, right?
Mhm.
Um, and one of the things you learn is the difference between listening and active listening. You
Right.
see, everybody hears, but when you're actively listening, you're taking in that other person's side.
Mhm.
You know what I
Mhm.
mean?
Mhm.
And you're getting their perspective or their topic, right, which is their
Right.
position. You're experiencing life through their eyes. True.
Right. True.
The worst thing you could do is be trying to think about what you're going to say the whole time someone's talking to you.
Man, listen. And a lot of times what we do too is we literally put ourselves in a situation where that's why sometimes I feel like having conversation is an art, because there's disciplines as well too, because you can be one of those persons like I was, where as soon as I heard something that didn't sit well, I
Mm,
automatically stop actively listening and start figuring out what my defense was.
mm. So now, and here's the go. Here, go back to what you said earlier about you're computing to what it means to you at the time. I know you got some pet peeves. I want you to drop in some of your pet peeves and good bad conversation. What causes it too? But and rather one of mine's is when people be like, you be telling somebody something, they go, I hate when people say that. You know what I mean? And it aligns with exactly what you just said, because in your past self, because what that is to me is that they heard something, or they thought they heard something that they thought they were familiar with, right?
Mhm.
There's only so many words in a language. I mean, there's only so many different ways you can mix them up to actually mean anything.
Right.
So you may have heard something before, but you didn't dive into what it meant to the person that was saying it at the time before you formulated your opinion in your example, and then started preparing your defense.
Right.
I was watching your other show, one of your shows. I forget where you're talking about, like the guys don't want to talk, right?
Uh-huh. The emotional joint.
Yeah. If
Yeah.
you guys haven't checked that out already, be sure to stop over to her site,
Yeah,
check it out.
definitely.
So I think what's key is maybe it's not that they didn't want to. Maybe okay. So here's the backstory. You,
And the topic of that live was emotional communication in men.
got you. So make sure y'all write that down, y'all. All right. So you were with your friends. Let's use your show as like the whole ladies girls night out type thing. You
Okay,
talking to
let's
them,
roll.
like
Mhm.
you talking to them about the situation. You got 4 or 5 of them in your ear. Yeah, this might be what it is. This that the other. Boom 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 boom. Right. So you fully loaded with possibilities. Right.
Right.
Then people's lives busy. You done talked to a couple other people. You done sat around, thought about yourself for a few hours, a couple days. Now you see the right moment, and it's not attacking you, it's generally speaking, but you
Mhm.
see the right moment and you pounce with the question. Boom! Hey! Now, caught off guard, he responds, or that person if it could be a business, it could be anything, business conversation, whatever.
Uh
But
huh.
that person responds, and now because you've spent 400
They
hours on the
they've moved
topic,
on.
huh?
Go ahead.
Yeah, you already got 400 hours invested into the topic,
Mm-hmm.
and they say the 1, 2, 3, 4 words, and you oh, that's what such and such was talking about right there. You already off the deep end without even really giving it a chance to understand through their eyes or what it meant to them.
Right.
And that's the thing with emotions, right?
Right.
So would you say that's where your emotions got the best of you, and or people in that situation and they lost the conversation?
So conversation can often get lost, especially when there's emotion and passion involved.
Mm,
And so
good points.
you have to be really careful, because if you're in an emotional state, lots of time emotion and logic don't go hand in hand. And so you have to it's literally about you have to have that discipline, because we literally, when we hear something and we connect with it, because we're not going to, when someone's talking, we're not going to connect with all things that they're saying. Sometimes when they're speaking, you're trying to figure out what it is that you can connect with, or how to connect it all together so that it makes sense to you. Because when you're actively listening, it's not all the time that you're actually processing word for word what that person is saying. Sometimes you're waiting for them to finish so that you can get a general gathering of what it is that you thought you've heard.
Now, I noticed, I observe, because observation is a good point, a good piece of knowledge too. I
Hmm.
observe you even right now. We're in exchange,
Right.
and we're both sitting here like, right? I
Yeah.
think that's an awesome tool, right? Because
Hmm.
instead of hanging on to that thought, you're waiting to say something in a second sentence. Now you're trying to you're totally tuned out because you're focused on what you're trying to say. You're trying to keep the words right. Then you get a glimpse of something else they say. You're like, oh, I got something else to say. Now you're juggling two thoughts in here. You really lost.
Yep.
So just simply, if you're in a, I mean, if it's just a fun and games conversation, yeah, I don't see you pulling out a notebook. But if you got any type of really meaningful dialogue going on, I think a great tool is to jot down notes,
Yes.
and then you can come to it, because that way you only lose a few seconds, but you really can, you can multitask a couple seconds, and you're totally engaged in the conversation. What other tools do you see or have in your toolbox that you use to keep you fully attentive, um, and really giving the max value to the conversation?
So, and then you made an excellent point. I definitely, one of the best tools I've ever learned to do was to jot down things on a notebook and just jot down keywords. So if someone's talking and is a point that I want to go back to and reference, I literally just write that word down. I don't spend a lot of time trying to write down my whole entire thought, just that key word, because you'll realize too, once you get to the end of listening to them speaking, that maybe that word didn't even strike you as something to really go back to. But if it's really on your heart and in your mind, then you'll definitely go back to it. Another thing that I had to learn, or another great tool as well too, is body language and
Mm,
facial communication.
mm,
When you're actively listening to someone,
mm-hmm.
it's very important for you to acknowledge that you are listening to them.
Is it?
you know yes, 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 it is. It is so funny because I was watching The Office last weekend, and The Office was it was a guy that was doing a sales pitch to a group of women,
Mm-hmm.
and he got up there and he literally was just going straight in. He wasn't listening to any of what they were saying, and the women were trying to coach him, so they were like, no, you can't do this. Women like to know that you're actively listening to them.
Okay.
And so he was like, okay, well, what does that mean? And so they were explaining to them, you have to nod your head as if you're complying. You have to like tilt it to the side sometimes. And so during the conversation, they had a little practice run. And
Mm-hmm.
during the conversation, the only thing he was doing was this and this. He wasn't listening, but he was trying to take instructions for what it is that he felt like they wanted.
And that's a great point, because people have their perception. Everybody has their perception of what is required to showcase one providing their attention, right?
Yes.
But everything that I look at, everything in life is a gift and a curse,
Mm-hmm.
because we're in a realm of duality, right?
Right.
So in that example, they're like, yeah, shake your head, tilt it to the side, blah blah blah, whatever, whatever.
Right.
That's only gonna work with the people that's emotionally attached to receive that
Mm-hmm.
particular body language. To
Yep.
others, it could be a distraction. To
So I
an
guess
ex- Go ahead.
I guess first things first, then you have to know the audience and what you're conversing with. Um,
True.
because it really may be something where that's not required, and if that's not required, then that's not something that you have to show and you have to do. Multitasking is a real thing. However, everybody cannot do that. I can be in the kitchen cooking and having a full-fledged conversation with someone, but I'm still actively listening to them. But not
Yes.
everybody can be in the kitchen and cooking and slicing herbs and seasoning meat and actually be fully listening to someone. So you have to figure out again your audience and what you're talking to. If they can't if they can't multitask, if they need certain cues in order to acknowledge and know that you're listening, and you can know that from the very first time you speak to someone. It doesn't have to
Mhm.
be someone that you know in general. You can tell, like, just from your natural chemistry and conversation, what is it, is this person engaging, is this person being active? So body language and facial expressions is one thing, but another thing as far as learning too is god, oh, it slipped off the tip of my damn tongue. It just went away. Okay, I'm gonna let you take back over because I literally, it slipped my
It'll
mind.
come back to you. It'll come back to you. So like when I was at Discover Card, they spent $32,000 to teach us tone
Yes, okay, there you go, tone and delivery, yes.
because we on the phone and you don't have access to the body language. But now look, let me show you where this body language stuff goes wrong. Like you were just saying, you're in the kitchen, right? Before I get to that point, I think the audience also has a responsibility to know who's delivering the message to them.
Yes, your
You see what I
audience,
mean?
yes.
If you don't
Yep.
got a hype, person, if you don't got an animated individual, you can't expect. It's gonna be a problem at times because you're not gonna feel like there's that connection or engagement because they're not delivering it emotionally enough for that
Right.
emotional person
Yeah,
to receive it.
that's
And
true.
then lastly, um, you're in the kitchen cooking, and if that person wants to see that action, that body language and everything, but you focusing on tenderizing the meat while the stove is hot and this is going on in the pot, you ain't listening to me. Now you creating an argument because the expectation is not satisfied because you didn't make the head nod or the eye contact. You see?
That's true. That's true. And that expectation thing is very true. But a lot of times we don't come into a conversation and saying, "Hey, listen, in order for me to fully be able to engage with you, I expect ABC XYZ in order for this conversation to be conducive." We don't do that,
Terms and
It,
agreements. Look,
we
just like your bank account, you gotta have terms and agreements. It's gotta be understood.
Yeah, like you have you we don't do that. Hell, we don't even do that for relationships. We just end up falling into it. So those expectations, I think it is something that's definitely it's warranted, but it, I don't think it's something that's it's maybe an unspoken thing, so to say. You can tell someone who wants to actively engage with you by what by the energy. To
Yeah.
me, if you ask me, you can tell if they want to actively engage in you with by their energy. And it's not always up to you to make someone focus. If you want their attention, absolutely you should say, "Hey, listen, I need your full divided attention and I expect ABCXYZ."
Right.
But if it's not something that you really need to have, or you see that energy is weird, or it's not something that they're going to hold on to or want to be a part of, listen, you can really just be like, okay, like, this conversation isn't for me because I already know you you are the person that wants to lead it,
Mm.
in a sense of you want to be heard, but you don't want to hear.
Right.
And at some point you just have to be okay with just not being heard. And I think some people have to, it's a fine balance between, again, knowing when this is a conversation, a dialogue that you're having with me, or a dialogue we're having together, or a
Mm.
dialogue that I'm just having with you.
And there's a time and place for all that, right?
Agreed.
So I think what you mentioned earlier, you were saying the in relationships, right? I
Hmm.
think people should put those disclosures down. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I completely agree. But I mean, let's be real. We a lot of times we just fall into relationship based off of what emotions. We don't,
But
a lot of times we're not entering into a relationships based, like our logical thing may tell us, oh, like this, I've logically observed and or looked at the things that I've seen and even some of the things that I've heard, but I have not actively had a conversation saying I expect ABCXYZ from this particular relationship.
look, that is your chess analogy from the other day,
Hmm.
right? And that is being live about in your conversation. See, when you're not live and present, you're not speaking about where you're dwelling at. You're not giving the 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 other person the opportunity to know you. They don't know where you're at
Hmm.
because you didn't ever tell
Right,
them this is my domicile. You see what I
right,
mean?
right.
So that sets them up to interpret. Hey, they're just like everybody else I know. Like from the rip, what I told, I don't do titles because
Mm,
titles create the expectations that lead to failure. What keeps everybody together, whether it's a what keeps everybody, keyword everybody together, whether it's you physically, whether it's your household as a body or a company
right.
as a body, is the destination.
Yeah. I was telling
Everything.
somebody that the other day, like that was I need you to repeat that to the people because that was a beautiful thing. You don't believe in titles. What keeps you together is agreeing on the destination.
Absolutely. That's the only thing that matters because everything else dissolves because it's conditional.
Yeah.
And the moments those conditions disappear, just like we talked about, you're in there you're cooking the meal for the person that's great argue with you because you're not paying them the undivided attention they expect. That's a condition.
Yeah.
You see?
Yeah.
So what happens
Yeah.
is when we jump back to this, and this of course doesn't represent every possibility people look for, right?
Mhm.
But when we jump back to this, oh, this is what makes a good conversation. You can't live and die by that because
Right.
everything's a gift and a curse.
Agreed.
And then there's a time and space for everything. So going back, I'll say this and give you the floor. Going back to your conversation with about the men, you jump. I think there's two things that I like that really throw people off, and I'll be, I'll listen to what they gotta say sometime,
Mhm.
maybe, and I'll be like, oh, okay, give me a couple of days to think about that. I'll get back to you. And it's
Right.
like, what do you mean you can't talk to me about it now? Well, you might have presented me something. Like I said, you spent 400 hours thinking about it. Now, be courteous enough to give a person the time to give you an actual valuable response instead of some haphazard thing they just, spit out at you. You see?
Right.
That leads into if you're going to have a conversation, make sure you prepare the proper environment for it. You see what I mean? The proper
Mm.
time and the proper space. Make sure the conditions are right it, to to receive the expectations that you want in a certain conversation. How you feel about that?
I mean, I think that to me that goes back to tone and delivery, honestly, because it doesn't matter. I can have a conversation, it doesn't matter where I am. But tone and delivery is important as well too because depending on where my environment is, like, and yes, long story short, I do agree that the environment is important depending on what type of conversation that you're going to have. Like,
Mm-hmm.
I don't want to be having a heart to heart in-depth talk about our relationship in Walmart. Like, that's not the
It goes
place.
down.
It definitely goes down. However, I would say that's not my ideal. However, I've seen and witnessed couples talking about life shit in Walmart and they were cool with it
Mm-hmm.
because they were able to both be on a level of emotional okayness with it,
Right.
and the expectations were out there, but I think they just more so, again, it's the people in which you are engaging in that conversation with, because it's also a go with the flow type thing. Like, if you can't position yourself to literally say, okay, this person needs some more time to process it, I have to accept that. And
Yeah,
I think the biggest thing that we get caught up, or the direction in which conversations start to go left, is when we don't accept what is being said by the other person. And so sometimes that acceptance may come as, okay, and acceptance and agreement is two different things.
totally.
I may accept what you said, but that doesn't mean that I'm fully agreeing with what just came out your mouth.
Right.
So, there has to be that time and place too, where you're like, okay, you know what? I accept what you said, but give me some time to process that in order for me to give you a fully digested response. And I think people have to learn to accept that part of people. And if it's a matter of you wanting to hold them accountable, then just say, all right, cool. Well, maybe we can talk about this tomorrow. Can we talk about this tomorrow evening? Because I think with women, when it comes to that part of the emotional communication, it's okay that men may need a second to process it, but we need you to come back to it.
Right.
And I think that's the lack of the accountability part, because when you don't come back to it, it's like, well, you just wanted to get me out of your hair. You just wanted to, you know what I'm saying,
Okay.
push me away. And so if you don't acknowledge the coming back part to it, then I think that's where it gets blown up, and where a lot of times women will want to discuss it right then and there. I need it now. I need it right now, because I let you off the hook. I let you say come back to my I let you say come back to it
Hmm.
before, and you never came back to it.
That is account management.
Yeah.
You see, because what you got to do is it's a balance between I want it right now, and you might really need some time to think about it, but also don't forget me,
Right,
right?
right, right.
So you got to be able to manage that. So maybe at that point, initially, it's like, okay, in reality, you may not know exactly how long it's going to take. It took y'all 400 hours, but you didn't sit down ahead of time and say, hey, we're going to take 400 hours and think this through.
Right.
You might have said, hey, let's talk about something real quick. I need your opinion. And then 400 hours later, you see what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So you don't know in reality.
Mhm.
So to be fair, it could take a while. But at the same time, what I think people need to do in that situation is create the expectation by managing the accounts. Okay, I understand you need some time to think about it. You know what I mean? Matter of fact, this is kind of serious. We might want to sit down with our notebooks and take some notes about each other's side. When do you think this week? You see what I mean? That's when you got to go into that mode. When do you think this
Mhm.
week we can sit
Mhm.
down and create the time and space, create the environment so that we can do this efficiently?
Yeah. So I got a question for you, because
Sure.
I feel like, um you know, because we're both two well articulated people, and we desire to communicate and to communicate effectively, that we have almost researched, studied, and delved into the art of it. Do you feel, number one, that having a conversation is an art, and that there is an actual skill set to it?
Everything is a craft or a science. And your desires determine your addictions, right?
Mhm.
So what we have to do is we have to, yes, to answer your question, yes, because everything is a craft or art, and art was basically always a science. So we've we were interested enough in communication for
Mhm.
various reasons, right? That appeal
Right.
to us, that caused us to have a desire or an addiction to perfect the craft of communication. It's
Mhm.
not always the same for everybody. You know what I
Agreed.
mean? So like I said, I know that I had the experience of getting probably hundreds of thousands of dollars of training in communicating from working for
Mhm.
large credit card companies, studying songwriting, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera, right? So when I speak to people, you have to having as a leader, we have to know they may not be where we're at about the
Mhm.
values that we have in conversating. But then again, go back to this right here. Just because it's described or reported as what makes a good conversation doesn't mean it's the right time and place for it. So then there's
Right.
a whole nother layer. once you become non-emotional, you know what I'm saying, or not
Yeah.
gonna say non-emotional. That's people get that confused, but you're just in control of your emotions, right?
Hmm.
You start to be able to dissect what people say, no matter if they're speaking emotionally or not. You know what I mean? Because you're more concerned with what's actually being relayed,
Right.
not
Right. Right.
how.
Right.
Now you can
So
get some guidance. Go ahead.
no, no, no. Go ahead.
I was gonna say you can give some guidance, but you can't create the expectation that other people are gonna, one, be like that, and two, convert. Where was it? What was that definition? Convert uh from sinner to righteous. They're out there conversationally sinning.
Listen,
And
I
we
like
want
that
we trying to convert
conversationally
on the righteous. We
sinning.
can't expect them to be by the end of the conversation. They're gonna be a righteous with their dialogue.
Ooh, I like that conversationally sinning.
Go ahead. Where
That's
you at with
very
it?
that's very true. Um, it's important. I realize in speaking with people that because it's an art and because it's a craft, there are people that are skilled and connected to different types of conversations.
Yes.
Some people light up and are very articulate and can express very well the conversation about business. Some people light up and can articulate and can and delve in and have done the research about religion.
Right.
But one of the biggest things as to why I run a platform called the Convo L&E
Mm-hmm.
is because nobody tends to want to have those conversations with themselves.
Mm, that's where it starts. In order to go back to the etymology. You can't speak on your live. You can't be live, and you can't tell somebody where you dwelling at if you don't know yourself.
Listen, who am I? That is the biggest conversation that needs to be had with you, with who you are.
Know
You know what I'm
thyself.
saying? With yourself. Who am I? You need to find the words to identify who you are. You need to figure out emotionally, like who am I emotionally? Who am I in my passion? Who was I created for? Who was I purposed to be? Those conversations you need to have with self. And it was important for me to go this direction about living your truth
Mm,
and having the conversation with self because I was the Matrix is my favorite movie.
mm,
Everybody who knows me knows that. But I was trapped in the place in the Matrix where I was everybody but myself. I took on the art like whatever my family wanted me to be. I
why?
thought that's what because growing up that's what I learned. Conditioning wise, it wasn't about me. I was never taught to be selfish. I was selfless.
Mm,
Well, hold on. I was never taught to be selfish for me. I was always taught to be selfless for everybody else. And so being the oldest of
yeah.
four, my mom being a single parent, a lot of what I did never mattered. It was all being placed on this is what I expect you to do. I'm not looking at who you are. I'm looking at what I'm expecting you to do. So conditioning and growing up, it was not about what was expected of me. It was about what other people who influenced my life expected of me,
Right.
which entailed made me feel like that was a defining of who I was or who I am. And so growing up feeling like you, I'm still a divergent. I've always been at heart. My mom says my lips are so big right now because she popped me in them so much. I was the talk back. I was the
Mm-hmm.
one who questioned everything. But even in my questioning, even in my talking back, I was still constantly being suppressed, and
Okay.
I was fighting that. So as I got older, I started to realize why the hell am I fighting myself? Like it got so uncomfortable for me. And a lot of times people relax into it, they get complicit in it, they get okay with it, but that it's still at the core of them, there's still a battle internally of defining and knowing who it is that you are. And so after I got divorced, I literally looked at myself and was like, I can't do this shit no more. I spent 3 months just going to work and coming home and literally talking to myself,
Mm-hmm.
talking through my emotions. Who are you? Why do you feel sad? And I was forcing myself to articulate that using words,
Yes.
communication, not just in my head, because a lot of times we can just get caught and trapped in just sitting there thinking of all the things in our mind, but not necessarily vocalizing them. And so I finally had to get to that point where I was like, okay, well, let me vocalize why I'm sad, why I'm mad, why I feel this way, why I feel still get triggered over these things. And when I took the time to deal with me and use words and communication and start articulating, I literally I was able to better define who I was. And when I stepped out of that 3 to 6 months later, I was like, here I am.
Right.
This is me. Take it or leave it.
Yeah. Yeah. Exactly. Now, in finding yourself, did I spent 2 years. I did 2 years. Not did it like when people say that it's like, oh, you went to jail. No,
Hey,
I
now
spent
hell
two.
yeah, you do a bid.
Right.
I don't care what nobody say. You do a bid when it come to time to get to know
Right.
yourself.
Right.
Yes.
So it was some time before, but then I took a solid 2 years and just like locked in. You know what I mean? Right before I came down to Charlotte. So I totally can relate to what you're saying. Now let me ask you this, based off of that. Once you came, once you went in, you were a social butterfly prior to,
Mhm.
right? Then you
Mhm.
go into your cocoon. It was like backwards. It was like the backwards butterfly. You know what I mean? You were the social butterfly. You went into your cocoon. Did you find that you became an outcast once you found yourself from your pre-environment
That's good
before?
shit. Yes. So I can say definitely I was a total extrovert before that process, but now I'm an ambivert, which means a little of both worlds.
Mm-hmm.
But I really enjoy my solitude because I really realized how misunderstood or rejected or separated, I should say, I am because the way that I process things and the way I own who I am, it's not
Right.
necessarily accepted to everyone all the time. Sometimes it can be a little much for people, and sometimes I just don't really wish to just be understood. So, my time and creativity is being able to connect with the podcasting. Podcasting has become a love of mine because I'm able to have moments where I'm sitting and I'm pouring and I'm having dialogue and I'm sharing, I'm exchanging for a few hours,
Yeah.
but then I can literally spend the next 3 days editing material by myself.
Yeah. Yeah. It's awesome, and I do editing myself, so I know that lock in, and when you're in that creativeness and you're creating something from nothing is always amazing. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Yeah.
So let me ask you this, or let me point out something from my side based on some of the things you just said a moment ago. I think once you identify yourself and you work so hard to be popular, meaning commonly known. You know what I'm saying?
Mhm.
And to be commonly known, you have to be commonly accepted, because if they reject
Mm,
you, then they're not going to know you. So that kind of goes hand in hand, right? So
right.
you were popular because you were there for everybody. And then
Mhm.
once you become self-preservation focused, people start to realize, oh well, we don't know her no more. She's in change. She's different. Da da da. Right? But you still
Yeah.
want to
Yeah.
reach them because now you've reached this story. Right? Oh, where we at?
Right.
Talk, story, tale, account. So you reach this story in the building where you're in the 2%. Right?
Mhm. Mhm.
So now the way you see things, the way you live, where you dwell at, go back to the etymology,
Mhm.
your live view won't connect with the masses who might just need it the most. So how you work around that, I found, is it's actually a great thing, because once you get into Dunbar's number, you heard of that?
I have.
Okay, so you get you instead of trying to manage what we say account management. Let me get my hold
Mhm.
on. They know I got something new going on here, so they know I be got to click these buttons and stuff. That's why we ain't got eye contact, because I wear the glasses. Because I gotta look at the screen and be doing all this stuff. I don't want you to feel like I ain't paying y'all no attention when you watch the when you watch the
Yeah.
replay. So account management, right?
Mhm.
So the way you account manage that, I found, is you reduce the people you're actually trying to become popular with to the people that are
Mhm.
actually living the same life or have the same view or in the same dwelling as you,
Right.
right? because now they can receive the conversation based on the frequency of the etymology, the way you give it.
Right,
Now
right.
they are leading 5,000 people each, or that are
Yes,
in
yes,
their own little vibration and frequency. So whereas
yes.
you may be calm and collective, and yeah, this is how. Because I think a true leader should never have to raise their voice. Like, if you really in control, you should never have to raise your voice.
I agree.
That's where this quote came from. I was like, I gotta use this today because this is exactly how I feel right here. Like, if you yelling, you not in control of the situation.
I like that.
So you talk to the people, and then maybe they got a different style where they go out and they're the animated ones. They gonna get in front of their people and be like, hey, yo, this is what we need to do, and F that motherfucker, and rah, and everybody in their crew gonna be like, yeah, you would have never got that
Right.
connection.
That's
But
true.
you can still you can manage the account properly where the message still gets to the people who needs it.
So, with Dunbar's theory, he says that 150 is a number of individuals who a person, who one person can maintain stable relationships with.
Right.
Keyword stable.
Right.
And so I had to be careful because when I came out of the cocoon and I realized I am me and I owned me, I had to make sure that I was arrogantly humble in doing so.
I don't like the word
So,
humble. Tell me why you said humble.
arrogantly humble, only because you can get caught in your arrogance and your ego start to feed it. And when your ego starts to allow you to see it, because you can be confident in who you are, but when you start to get arrogant, that means your ego has tapped into some things, like, and you're really not able to be. Is that really truly who you are, or are you just trying to boast and push out that part of you that you feel like you've suppressed for so long, and now it's like, hey, this is me, I'm here now, I'm going to push it, but it's still at the end of the day about balance as well too. So the humility part comes in, because it's like, okay, I can accept and be happy with where I am and who I am and the path that I'm on, to embracing that, but I also have to be humble with the fact that I wasn't always this way.
I got you. Now, I see where you're at with it, and I have to just give you that next staircase to the next story up, right?
Okay.
And we got to go back to what we was talking about earlier. This is duality, so that's really gonna be perception based on one's emotional attachment, because what the word humble really means is not proud. And you say, okay, they done told us this. Remember you was talking about how you were being suppressed. And pow, you're getting smacked in the mouth by your mom. I mean, not figuratively, but and you were like, that's why, but you were still fighting back, right? Okay. The word humble to me is just that, because they taught us to be humble. And if you say being humble is a good thing, then and you look at the definition and it means not proud, then that must mean that proud is something bad, right? But when we go to the dwelling that proud lives in, we find that proud means noble, excellent, and splendid.
Yes, it means a deep pleasure or satisfaction of the result of one's own achievement. So you taught me something new today.
Always
I like that.
So I encourage everybody around me to be proud, because you have to find your joy and your peace before you can become proud of it.
I agree. Ooh, yes. Ooh, find. Look, I'm writing. I definitely agree. So coming out of that cocoon, it's also about when you find your who am I, and you're on that journey and you're on that path. What I've discovered is believing in yourself. When you believe in you 100%, when you're proud of who you are, when you found that joy and you found that happiness and you found that peace, then you literally people can't help but to see it. Like when it's like when I buy stuff from people, because, like, as far as salesman is concerned, I will buy something from a salesman because if he makes me believe that he believes in that thing, then I'm buying it from it. But I will not buy from a salesperson who's like, well, I think it does this, and if you like push the feature here, then it may do this. No, obviously you don't know what you're talking about. You don't know what you're connected to. So why would I buy this from you? So
let me ask you a question real quick. Hold that thought. Does it change the dynamics of it if they're honest up front and say, hey, look, I'm new to this. This is a new product just got in. I got this information. I can share it with you. How does that change that same display of lack of knowledge?
To me, it doesn't change the display. To me, it doesn't change my display with that person.
Okay.
Honestly, I've literally just leveled up in regards to appreciation with that person because they were transparent. Like when you get to a point where you're trying to sell me something
Mm-hmm.
and you don't believe it, or you don't and you don't tell me that you know it, but you're trying to sell it, then that means you're either trying to manipulate me or you're trying to lie to me.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And so I'd rather you be transparent and upfront with me and saying, hey, listen, I'm new to this. I really don't know everything that
Right.
goes into it. Because here's what's going to happen. Now it's going to force me to say, you know what, I accept that. And
Mm-hmm.
if I accept that, but I need more detailed information, I can say, I accept where you are, but can you get me someone else that knows more, more detail so that I can make sure I'm making the right purchase?
Right.
Or I can say to that person, you know what, cool. Well, that means that we're going to figure this out together.
Right. And there
And
you
I'm
go.
and I'm accepting of the fact that I now have to have patience. Like there's ingredients now with me accepting that, because my acceptance has said I now know where this individual is, so therefore
Yes.
I've made the agreement to say I need to be patient. I need to make sure that the information and knowledge that I share, that I know about this, that I'm sharing with this individual as well too, and they're okay with receiving information from me as well too.
Absolutely. Because they were honest and upfront about where they live or their life and where they're dwelling at. It allowed you to receive and
Yep.
reciprocate your life and how you live and where you're dwelling at, and either make the choice of, okay, you know what, I can work with you on that, or I need somebody else because I ain't got time right now.
Right.
You see what I'm saying?
Yep. Definitely.
And
Definitely.
that's again, that's the good conversation. That's the
Yeah.
account management.
It's always a beautiful thing when you're account management. When you're aware of who you are as account holder and what your intentions are whenever you're going to the conversation. And I think that's a big thing too. What are my intentions? A lot of people come to conversations with the intention not to go on a journey with someone, but the intention to, this is what I have to say,
Yeah.
and so I'm going to say it. And
Yeah.
so when you meet a conversation with going into it with, this is what I have to say, or you can go in a conversation being timid, like, oh, I know this person has, I know this person knows who they are, but I don't necessarily know who I am, so I may have to overcompensate to make myself feel like I'm going to connect to this individual, because
Mm-hmm.
you've already lessened yourself in the conversation before you even got to it.
Right.
And so at the end of the day, like what I tell people often is, number one, when I enter a conversation, I literally say to people, like, this is my new mantra now.
Okay.
I'm me. The rest will make sense after that.
Right. Get to know you first, like we
don't
established
don't
earlier.
don't allow what your perceptions, what your experience, what your thought is, don't put that on me. You know what
Right.
I'm saying? Let my own experiences, let my own thoughts, let those be a reflection of who I am. That's me.
Right.
Then once you get that, you'll understand, okay, cool. Like, I don't have to, I'm having a conversation, I'm having dialogue with her. Her views and her words are a representation of her. She's not here to argue with me. She's not here to make boast about anything. She's literally here to say this is who she is and what she believes in it. And then I can be able to say, this is who I am and this is what I believe in. And we're not getting into these battle of, I'm trying to convince you of who you are.
Yes.
And I'm because when you start doing that, it's like, Jesus, like, I that's fine. You are who you are. I am who I am. We don't have to agree, but it should make sense, because we are accepting that we are two individuals.
Yes. You should always. I think no matter what, no matter what the topic, you should always walk away from the conversation with growth.
Yes.
And that
Yes.
that should either be, it could be something as simple as, well, I know I don't want to talk to them about that again. You know what I mean? Or you just know where they're at with it, like you said,
Mhm.
or you learn something new, or you get like confirmation of what you thought you knew, and that's like you're growing. You know what I mean? No matter what,
Yep.
if you're doing the right thing in the conversation, you should at least leave it with some element of growth.
One thing that I enjoy doing when it comes to conversation, Carl Ladon Beaver says, "Do both of you feel like you intimidate people, so that's why they come into the situation defeated?" Listen, I pride myself in looking at an individual and saying, "Listen, I invite you to be yourself. Take it off. You're cool, take it off. You know what I'm saying? You're thinking that you have to come to me in a certain manner or level. Like, listen, be you. Whoever that is, however this conversation flows, be you. Because I'm not going to judge you.
Right.
Like, judge you in a sense of not accept you as being that because you did it. It's like when you hear somebody, they're in the middle of a conversation and they cuss, right? And then they say, "Oh my God, I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry. Please forgive me." I literally
Hmm.
like, listen, you don't have to apologize. If that's how you chose to express yourself, cool. I'm not offended.
Right.
And I think sometimes that's what you have to do. You have to remind people often in conversation to be themselves. Hey, it's cool. Like, I'm not offended. You're just expressing yourself. We're just having dialogue. We're just having conversation. As long as your tone and delivery stays within a place where I can handle and I can manage
Right.
account wise for me, then we're all good. When you start getting, a little carried away and I feel like I'm being threatened or disrespected, then that's when the conversation will end for me.
Yeah.
There's no point in going on after that because at this point, this is not about an exchange, it's about an attack. And I refuse to sit here and get attacked.
Yeah. Uncontrolled tone leads to some percentage of deaths daily. So,
Yeah,
I mean, you
true shit.
people don't think about the severity of their actions. Now, that was a great question. Um, and as I mentioned to you earlier, you know, I people like I said, my side knows that I'm going through different levels relatively quickly and changing software and upgrading and doing stuff. So I'm still mastering the controls. So I haven't got to the point where I'm doing the controls and looking at
Oh, trust me, honey, I get it.
so
I feel you.
so I encourage the people on your side, and if you can see my side, to go ahead and Q&A, because we do have eyes on the screen there with L able to view it. Now, I think as you mentioned earlier, Honeybee, the people are actually intimidating themselves, and it's
Hmm.
based on their topic, because we covered before. The topic is actually their topic is a position. So see,
Hmm.
wherever you at, that's the topic you on. So that controls the perception of where somebody else is.
Hmm.
So
Hmm.
based on their topic, it creates the intimidation. And you have to get over fear early on in the emotional calibrations that we went over in the
Yes.
Life Vibe series to be able to do anything. So that leads me to this, to ask you this. Please tell your side of the power of asking questions. Because
Oh.
if you're intimidated, the fear means, if you go back and check out my video on Why That 7, we broke it down, that fear actually translates to assumption.
Hmm.
So you can only be intimidated by what you assume, but please elaborate on the use of asking questions.
You have to first be a person who desires clarity
Yes.
because I think questions are only important to people who need clarity. And to me, I've realized that if I don't have clarity, like when I get confused, I get anxious. And I had to realize like a lot of some of my anxiety is attached to confusion. And so it's very important to me that I get clarity because
Mm-hmm.
the understanding is the direction. And so if I literally can find myself in a situation where the clearer it is, the more clarity I have, the more understanding I have, the clearer my direction is.
Now, you're just like everybody else. We in that sense, I agree with you in that statement, and I want you to know that we are just like everybody else in that sense. What is the difference is the topic,
Yes.
their
Yep.
position, because a person that's gonna have that intimidating or that angry response or whatever it is, right?
Mhm.
They are actually actively listening but they're actively listening for the emotional triggers that they're
Right.
addicted to.
Yes.
So no matter
Ooh.
what you
Ooh.
say, they're gonna find something to get angry about. You know what I mean? How many times you been in that situation? You just gave them 10 sentences, it was all good. And they said, did you say, you know, that out of everything you said,
Yeah.
did you say, right?
Uh-huh.
Because they're actively listening, but only for the emotional trigger, for the emotion that they're addicted to the most. So you
And
want
you
clarity, they just want to be angry. You know what I
right.
mean?
Right.
Go ahead.
And you literally have to find yourself when you are engaged with those people who are just looking for the drama, or who are just looking to be captured by the emotional triggers in which they enjoy.
Mm-hmm.
One of my favorite phrases that I found, it's about peace, and the guy says, what is the key to internal peace? And he says, not to argue with fools.
Mm.
And so the guy says, well, I don't think that's right. And so the literally the monk says, yes, you are correct.
Yes.
you,
Yes, you are correct. You know what I'm saying? And just leave it
you
at
know
that.
you have to figure out what it is that you value the most. And if peace is something that you value over anything,
Mm-hmm.
then you have to be your own peace. And you literally have to allow another person to say, you have to look at another individual to say, you know what, in your world, because it's the truth, there's truth in it. In your world, in your perspective, through your perception, you are absolutely correct.
Yep. Yep. Because
and
what would have
and,
made,
and let that go.
because yes, and what would have made the difference in management of the account, right, is if they made asked a question to find out why the person said that, instead of
Right.
telling them something about how they're crazy, basically.
And again, that goes back to the clarity. It goes back to the no. You shout out to Carl. Carl says, don't be afraid to not know.
Yes.
However, we still
That
have
one.
to understand that there's the fear that is attached to that is literally, again, it's another conditioning, because as we grow up, especially in the African American community, a
Mm.
lot of times when we go to talk, if it's not in alignment with what our friends is saying or what our parents want to hear, we're told to shut up.
Mm-hmm.
We're told to, why are you asking so many questions?
Right.
Curiosity is really stomped out of us from a very early age. That's why it's so important between the age, those early years, that you allow your child to, be as inquisitive and have that curiosity. And I know it's aggravating sometimes, but they're trying to figure life out. And just like in conversation, when I'm on a journey with someone, I'm curious. I want to know. I want to try to figure it out. It's a desire of mine
Mm-hmm.
to have. And so I had to come back to embracing that inner child and that inner curiosity that I had with myself, to say, you know what? No question is a dumb question, because if I don't understand it, regardless of what your topic or what your position is,
Mm-hmm.
I need to make sure that I am on the same page with where you are.
Yeah.
So that
Or at
will
least know it
require,
exists.
right, at least no, so that will require me to not have to, and again, not again, but your self view of who you are. You can't look at yourself to say that, if you know what, this is going to be a dumb question if I ask this. You
Mm-hmm.
have to have enough confidence in yourself and enough self-awareness within and of yourself to say, you know what, I need to get this for me. I don't care if there's 12 smart people in the room who already got it. That's not my journey. Like, they're on their own paths. I'm glad that they got it, but I need to get it for myself. So therefore, if I got to be the one in the room to ask 12 million questions, and the teacher or the person leading the conversation has to then come to me and say, "Hey, Elise, maybe we need more one-on-one time with you, so that we can really, hone in on this topic with you," then I'd rather that be done than for me to feel like, again, to make myself feel like I'm being humiliated, I'm being embarrassed, because I have a desire to want more, but I may not be on the same speed, on the same level. It goes back to the conversations with the salesperson. If I tell you I'm not as well versed in the topic as you are, and I put that out there up front, at least there's an understanding now that I may not be on the same path as you, but I, at least I'm heading in the same direction. Just help me.
Right. Uh, and then that's what that's the difference between a good leader's account management and a poor leader's account management
Mm.
skills as far as the conversation goes. Now, what I wanna, um, you know, add to your coffee is I don't think necessarily that coming from someone who had a similar type experience as you, we're one of many. Okay,
Mm-hmm.
I don't think that prevented us from being inquisitive. I think for the right people, it actually fuels their inquisitiveness because it's like you're trying to keep me away from something. I'm gonna find out anyway. So you go ahead and you
Yeah.
still inquire and you go and get it anyway. But what determines the ones that do that from the ones that don't is based on topic. It's
Mm.
based on your desire, which is what creates your addiction. Because I guarantee the person that didn't see the need to ask the question or wanted to just be like stomp that fire out in the comment, another topic. If we talked about why the NBA ain't playing basketball right now,
True.
they gonna, well, what you think? How did what Matt? Why would you say that? They would have all the right questions then because it's a topic that they actually are connected with emotionally.
Right.
You see, you got to see the value in the discussion first before you can appreciate the
Mm.
time spent with it.
Yes. Yeah, and you know what? In the conversation, it really brings me back to relationships because it really bothers me, to be in a relationship with or to see dynamics in different relationships, especially when you see somebody say, "Hey, babe, like I really want to talk to you about, you know, so I want to talk to you about how I feel in regards to the direction we're going, right?" You know what I'm saying? Like you'll have, and literally, if they don't see any value in that particular conversation, then the emotion and that's met with it and literally the response can literally be like, oh,
Right, right.
that automatically makes you say, for me anyway,
Mm-hmm.
it literally makes me say, you know what, never mind. Because if you're not going to see any value in it, or if you won't even honor my desire,
Mm-hmm.
to have the conversation, then I already know you're not going to be attentive to me. You're not going to be, and so why bring it up?
So it's only a matter of times that that can be duplicated from the same individual before you start to practice one of your other. You pull out one of your other tools in your toolbox, which is Dunbar's number.
Yeah,
You see what I'm
yeah.
saying?
You go to those connections. Yeah.
Then they have, remember now they're like, if they're the negative person, that just gonna fuel their desire for emotional attachment for their negativity and be like, oh well, she thinks she all this, that, and the other, and she don't even want to fool with us no more because blah 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 blah. You see what I mean? So they're always driving to whatever they're addicted to. You see?
Mm.
That's desire. Desire determines our destination.
Well, I need somebody to be addicted to me in a relationship. So.
Well, a relationship is the interaction between two bodies, which is what?
I agree.
Which is, hold on, look, like that goes hand in hand. That's why you keep, even if you know it, don't think you know it or not. That's why you're talking about conversation.
Mm-hmm.
That is relationship. My definition is the interaction between two bodies, whether it's your body and another body, your household and another household, a company and another company, or astrological bodies.
Right.
They're
Hmm.
conversing. It's a conversation. They're dancing.
Yes. Oh, dancing. That's how I tell people, like, conversing is. It's like dancing. You take the lead, I take the lead. Some of it fits. Sometimes we struggle a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
And some conversations you can get in and you click. You have, it's literally, it's fluid. It's the exchange is effortless. And sometimes it takes a little bit more work with other people.
Patience,
Patience.
trust. Trust is lubrication of performance. So here's the trump card: text messages.
Okay. I have the text messaging attention span of an infant. I'm just it's helpful. Text messages are, if you need to get something clearly relayed in a you need to get it off your chest, or if you need to quickly communicate something, then I feel like that's the importance of text messaging. But for me in particular, I understand it's a mode of communication. It's a mode that you can even have a conversation through. But I don't. It's not my preferred method of having a conversation.
So, is it truly, clearly relayed with the absence of tone and emotion?
Um,
Generally speaking,
no, because what happens is you end up getting so I think that we are interpreting tone and delivery within text messages. But we do that based off of either number one, our experience with that individual. So if I've already had a prior experience with them and I've already had a connection with them, like a physical one where I've actually spoken to them, then I can interpret. I use my own interpretation to and imagination to read that text message.
mm,
But if I've never encountered that individual, then I'm still going to use my own interpretation of it, but I'm using the where I am emotionally to interpret it.
yes. So if you're on a if you're at a topic level where you can see many levels down, you understand that, hey, you know what? Like you spoke about earlier, hey, I need to ask this question so I can get clarity.
Hmm.
But there's people that'll see the text and be because I think this is my view on text. Excuse me. Text is great because you can send a message without interrupting the other person's current conversation or
Hmm.
or life. You know what I mean?
Right.
And they can get it whenever, and then they can respond to it without having to go through emails and all that stuff. Now, if you are in the know to know that, hey, look, I don't know the tone they're using, or let me know the person, or I don't know the person, or maybe you do know the person, but you don't really know this one instance, what's going on, you gotta still have that heart to say, what you mean? Or, you know
Yeah.
what, let me call you, when's good? You gotta be able to take that next step in the management of the accounts or the conversation.
Yeah. It's I agree completely. It's just the language of text messaging is so freaking confusing nowadays. It's like we've gone back to
Ah,
hieroglyphics.
you
You know what I'm saying? Like I don't like these. They got emojis now, and you literally just now I'm having a full fledged interpretation of what that means, what that emoji means, based off of what I know that it means. But then your interpretation of what that emoji means when you're sending it to me can be completely different. For example, the little side eye thing. Where it's like, side eye, right? Like, I don't know if that's like you're saying something freaky to me, like you want to like it's sexually suggestive, or whether or not like you like semi rolling your eyes but you didn't complete it. Like I don't know. I may interpret that totally different from what you're sending that to me, or you may have just mistakenly sent it.
right. It could be a
It's
mistake going
too
on.
much.
Right. Very true. Very true. But so you bring up a good point. Um, Etymology, which is why this is why I'm so focused on etymology, right? Because with all that diversity and not only the emojis meaning all these different things potentially to different people. Well, the first video I did was how many languages are there?
Mm,
That was the
mm,
title. And I
that's a
said
good one.
7 billion plus because there's 7 billion plus people on the planet. Everybody got their own interpretation
I
mostly
agree.
if we just cover it in a general statement.
Yep.
So this is why I push etymology so much for the and invest in the community is because we need to standardize. When you go to a manufacturing site, they have standard operation procedures.
Mm-hmm.
So we need standardization so that communication and conversation can be more efficient, right?
Right. Right.
Now, once how do you do that? Well, if you tie in the law of attraction, then it kind of makes sense to know what you're attracting. So let's go back to
Mm-hmm.
what it really means, right? Then everybody would know, right?
Right.
And once we know what the word, once people as a whole realize the words we use every day mean something totally different. One, that's going to
Hmm.
change your conversation because now you're actively listening different because you hear the word like nice. What's nice mean to you?
Um, nice. I don't know.
They taught us
Doing
all the
some.
same thing.
Yeah, it's pleasant, kind,
Right.
just satisfactory.
Kind, courteous, thoughtful.
Yeah.
So nice actually is NYCE pre 1300 foolish, delicate, fussy.
Hmm.
I'm gonna prove it to you. If nice was such a good thing, why would you have world famous quotes like "No more Mr. Nice Guy"? No more foolish, delicate, fussy guy. Nice guys finish last. Kind,
Right.
courteous, thoughtful people finish last? Or does it make sense that foolish, delicate, fussy people finish last? Which one is more truer?
Well, okay. So I understand that in the context of the worldview,
Okay.
because because in the world that we live in, there's still other things that rule over our fleshly dominion as far as spiritual things is concerned. And so, like, you have things like greed, you have things like power, that oftentimes we're all in, especially power, we're all in a lot, like we're all striving to have power over something, power in something. And so I think the whole thing, like nice guys finish last, is because from a societal standpoint,
Mm-hmm.
because it's a dog eat dog world, like dog eat dog type thing, then it's the survival of the fittest. So it makes sense that someone would finish last if they're nice, because we live in a savage world.
But you can be kind and still shoot a motherfucker. You can be thoughtful and figure out the that you don't need to be in this environment or deal with this topic. You see what I'm saying? Those are actually good qualities.
I
But
agree that
but
they are.
foolish, delicate, and fussy will almost guarantee you certainly
Mm,
ain't coming in first, right? I mean, if both sides
ye-
of the fence,
yes.
but but
In the in what race though?
everybody's in their own race.
Yeah. So I'm just
So
like, ugh,
so that's just the example. I mean, we could go on words, but the
I
whole
know.
thing is based on words, right? So as we go back to here, you see how it drives home the point of the conversation because now when you look at what conversation is from an etymology and a law of attraction standpoint, you see how etymology affects is the key to the law of attraction affecting the people's lives on a daily basis and
Agreed.
their view on stuff. So that's what I'm getting at. So once we standardize, right? Once we realize that the words we use every day mean something different, now we can fully imagine the law.
Yes. Yes.
You see, which is another thing when you say identify yourself in the situation.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of things are happening right now because we haven't had the proper conversation. The happiest and the saddest. I try to always remain on the same plane. I get a little bouncy sometimes. But the happiest and the saddest day of my conversation, right, my life,
Uh-huh.
right, in my accounts and my records, was when you lose the people. Um, when you're like, yo, I'm gonna go fight this case, I'm gonna beat it, and they're like, nah, you
Mm-hmm.
crazy, man. You know what I'm saying? And you lose quote unquote friends. I don't do titles, but you lose friends. Everybody turn their back on you, stuff like that. Then you go
Right.
go that you go to court and you beat the case yourself against 6 state prosecutors, and the judge comes out and gives you a standing ovation and tells you how he wish that more people came in and knew how to articulate themselves and present
Articulate.
themselves
Mm-hmm.
in that environment. So the people that you're trying to help is like you're crazy, and then the people that's in that topic, that dwell there, that's in that conversation daily, they're like, yeah, man, we waiting for more of y'all to come join this talk.
You're right. 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 And it's you. It's about you. Honestly, going back to the law of attraction, it's about manifestation as well too. You know what I'm saying? Like when you're walking in that particular thing, of course, like when you were coming out. when you were in the cocoon, everything, or when you were out before you got into the cocoon, you had those people that were around you that represented what you were putting out.
Mm,
You know what I'm saying? So when you
magnify.
come out of the cocoon, like now those people who recognized you beforehand don't know who you are. So it's like you have to go through your another cocoon with the Dunbar people.
Right.
It's like you literally you have to find another tribe. You have to find another, clan. You have to find another superior family. Like you have to find those different levels all over again because you're now you've left
Right.
that place, and so now you're in a different place, and because you're in a different place you have to realize, okay, now I have to find a I have to find a different set of people that's going to be for me, that's going to look at me. And I think throughout our life journey we will find that people will ebb and flow out of our tribes, people will ebb and flow out of our clans, they will ebb
Hmm.
and flow out of our superior families, and that's because we ebb and flow through life.
Yes. Two
And
things.
so
Oh,
go
good.
ahead. Mm-mm.
Two things that um insinuate what you were just saying there. I think we need to know that it's a fractal universe, which means uh, the more we focus on any one given point in time and space, the more it expands.
Right.
Okay, same as the topic. When you first see it, it's just this little shimmer of light, like a star in the sky, and then the more you
Mm-hmm.
focus on and dive into it, it becomes the sun 10 feet away from you, right?
Right.
So that, and also we need to also accept, keyword acceptance, right? Like you said
Yes,
earlier,
very much so.
we need to accept that the closer we get to where we see ourselves going, where we want to
Mm-hmm.
go in life,
Mm-hmm.
the more the people around us become who we expect them to be.
Yeah. Ooh, I can't wait to play this back so I can take that again. So I can take that. That's very beautifully said.
It's not mine, I recycled it, but it's
I don't
definitely valid.
care. Thank you for that jewel.
You know what I mean? So, what other pet peeves do you have when it comes to conversation? We covered a few of them,
um
probably definitely.
so one is when someone one of another one is when someone gets emotionally um upset because they want to interject.
Mm.
Like, so interjecting would definitely be something that is a pet peeve of mine, but it's funny because it's something that I used to do. I was that person to be like, but no, 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 but you, no, 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 no. Like
Mm-hmm.
whenever I heard something that I didn't agree with or that didn't align, or I had a thought in my head that I really needed to get out, I would be the one that would cut someone off. And so another pet peeve would be cutting someone off and then having the emotional being visibly upset to where someone's completely turned off from even having the conversation because they can't get their word out when they want it.
Which, you know what? That goes back to controlling the time and space. You know what I'm saying? Because you may realize at that moment it's not going to work. And maybe if you break away for a second, days come back later, or a day or two, that person will have a, you know what? I was trying to convert you at the time, which is really go back to here. That's why I left the convert down at the bottom. You were being
That is the biggest thing ever. Convert. I hate having a conversation with someone who's trying to convert me.
that's a key that I from leadership stuff that I've been learning from. I've learned that my what I've absorbed from it is not to convert people. I don't want to convert
Yes,
you. You know what I'm saying? You're gonna
very
grow at
beautifully
your own
said.
pace. I don't want
Mm-hmm.
to convert you. Let me find out what you're good at.
Yep.
Everybody works for me as long as they do them.
Yep.
So my
Ooh.
goal is to find out what you master and then put you to work in my conversation. You see what I'm saying? Or maybe know that you won't work in my conversation.
Right.
You see?
I like that. Everybody works for me as long as they do them.
Simple.
Yeah, when someone starts to make me feel like they want to convert me, it's like at this point, I had a good friend of mine. He said, one thing that I don't get into a battle or get into a conversation with people about, or a battle, he said with people is in regards to belief.
Mm.
because at the end of the
Why you say
day,
that?
because he said belief is based off a personal experience. It's based off of their personal. It's not based on facts.
Okay.
It's based off. So it doesn't matter how it is that what angle I come to it as. If it's their belief,
Right.
then there's absolutely no need for me to spend time trying to
Convert
say anything, convert, yeah, right,
them.
convert, and or to even not even convert, to even present information that has something to do with opposing views, because
Yes.
what they're going to look at is, okay, now you're trying to get me to not believe in the thing that I am. So he was like, I don't, when it comes to people having a say so about how they believe in something or how they, then I literally just be like, you know what, cool. That's how you believe. That's cool. If we're going to have a conversation, though, understand I'm not you.
Hmm.
So I'll let you have your belief, but mine may be totally different from yours. So if you're not into hearing what I'm going to share about my belief, because that's another thing, that a pet peeve of mine. You ready to unload on me and me accepting and me being open minded, but then when I'm ready to give you my truth, you shut down.
Boop. Lock it down. Right.
It's like, okay, you just spent this time and you feel free. And that's what I get from a lot of people. Oh my God, I feel so free after speaking with you. I feel so
Hmm.
good. I feel like whew, I can't really talk to people like this. The
Yeah.
people in my tribe, I can't really say this. And I'm like, oh, well, that's unfortunate. But as soon as I, start to give my truth and deliver the things that I say and how I feel, now it's like, oh shit, I wasn't ready for it. Like, but wait, why? Like, well, I mean, who now I get questioned. Now I'm
Yep.
getting looked at sideways.
Yep.
And it's like, okay, where was it? The same acceptance and
That same
freeness that I gave
sideways.
you. Where is it? Where is it in return?
Yeah. So is that the same sideways that make you feel like they might be trying to turn you on a little bit? You was talking about with that emoji
Listen,
earlier.
with that emoji, I
They
listen,
rolling their eyes at you halfway, you don't know.
I have had friends who, especially when it comes to of the opposite sex, they were like, Elise, like you have a very sensual way, sexual way that someone can be attracted to you via conversation, because you make someone feel that energy. Like it's like you give that energy, you give that tone and delivery, that comfortability that one feels. As far as the opposite sex is concerned, it can be misleading sometimes because you know it could put them in a space of arousal, which is what sapiosexuals, are how they're kind of connected. And it's like, okay, I can understand that, but that's on them. I may
Right.
literally, I don't feel shit. I'm
Right.
just having a conversation. But if that's the way they feel, then I can't control that, because I'm not going to change who I am because they're being mentally stimulated by the dialogue that we're having, that is creating a sexual energy with them. I ain't got nothing to do with that.
I agree with that coming from someone who would probably label themselves as a sapiosexual, but
Yeah,
it's like, do you I don't think you just hear the conversation and be like, oh my god, that's the one. You know what I mean? It's a lot more that goes into it. But if
it
that
is.
person is simply looking for a reason to feel magnetically with you, they're gonna find anything, and
Mhm.
that would be the great thing to grab, because they see that in you, and it's easily to say, hey, look, this is what you are. It connects to me. Hey, you know what I mean? But that's totally different. Now, I do like the whole conversation that your friend was having about the belief, because the way I define it is, and I broke this down in one of the Y-Net 7 deposits. I'm gonna start calling them deposits now. Account management. All right, so in one of the Y-Net 7 deposits, belief to me is not to know,
Mhm.
and then you have knowledge. Because
Mhm.
the easiest way to put that in is, you can believe the stove is hot or cold, but you don't know until you actually touch it. Now, you covered the one side of it, as far as talking to the person about something that's contradictory to their beliefs.
Mhm.
The other side of it is, you actually accidentally convert them at that moment,
Mhm.
and you fucking take their bliss away, and now they hate you for it because
Yeah.
you just gave them something that they can't really argue with, and they're like, you know what, damn, that fucking makes sense, but my whole life has been a lie.
Yeah.
It's you. I blame you. You know what I mean? So either way,
Yeah. Yeah.
it's right, but it's so wrong for all the right reasons. It's crazy.
Right.
All
And and
right.
and, and I love that. I love when that happens because I'm like, I mean, I had to go through that experience as well too with different people. Hearing someone say something but you know what? I guess the prize in that for me, or the beautiful thing about that for me, is I now know that they're open.
Yes.
They didn't come to the conversation being closed. They were literally, I was able to say something to them, and they're actively listening, and they're also open. They're open minded. They're being open to the things that are being discussed. They're being open to going on the journey with me. So now I know that when I say something and it may resonate with them, that goes against something that they believed, I now know that they're open to this thing called life. They're open to this thing called conversation, and they're literally aligning and realigning and reevaluating and refiguring things out within and of themselves, and that to me makes it beautiful.
Right. Because at the topic that we're on, when you first get there, you want to
Hmm.
plant the seed in the individual. And you want to be able to eat the fruit the next day. Like,
Right.
here's a seed. What do you mean you don't
not
understand? You ain't got it yet.
not
What
the case.
what we have to do. That was one of the hardest things in the beginning for me to get a hold of, a grasp of, is to just be like, you know what? In the grand perfection of things, I might have only supposed to been having that. I might have only supposed to have that conversation with them.
Yep. Yep.
In the grand scheme of things, you talk about relationships, like on Thursday and on your episode,
Hmm.
we might have only been in the perfection of things supposed to be with that person those 2 years.
Right.
That might
Right.
have supposed to been it because the exchange was complete. It would be like saying
Yes.
second
Yes.
period is over in school, but you want to stay in second period class. You may not want to go to third period, but you need to get the hell
Mm.
out of the second period classroom.
Mm. Yeah. I mean, but that is that goes back to your destination. You know what
Yes.
I'm saying? Like that literally goes back to, you have to be in alignment with what the destination is, and if you're in alignment with what the destination is, whatever moves and change and is interchangeable, and whatever come what may, to get to the destination, both of you as two individuals are collectively pursuing that. And so you're not going to allow any distractions to get you to the destination. Or if
Right.
you do get distracted, you can get through it because you're still looking at the destination.
Right. Absolutely. Now, what I want you to absorb, osmosis.
Okay, I'm sorry. I'm listening.
Nah, you good. All right. So what I want you to osmosis to be on is, we always, it's easy for us to picture that the past controls the future.
Mhm.
We also have to consider that the future controls the past. It's a Remember, the relationship is the interaction between two bodies. So the past is a body, it's a topic, and the
Okay.
future is a topic. And that means that there's interaction between them, and it's a two-way street. So what we must accept is that, like we were talking about, plant the seed today might have been the only thing we're supposed to do, because maybe someone else is supposed to come behind us and do
Mhm.
this part. The sun got to shine on it a little bit. Then it's got to
Yep.
grow for 3 years. Then all of a sudden it clicks, and all of those series of events becomes that fruit that finally fall off the tree. So when you look back on your life,
Hmm.
those same things that you're complaining about, well, not say you're complaining about them in a negative sense, right?
Right.
But those same experiences that you feel like maybe you shouldn't have had to go through. Because I heard you did mention, if parents could only uh, do this for their kids, what I mean, and consider this when they're talking to their kids, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera, right?
Mhm.
That is true, but for a percentage. And I think what we need to do is know that we're all destined to become whatever we want. Some of us are born with purpose, some of us find a purpose, but we're all destined to
Mhm.
become. So what happens is, if that's based on that knowledge, we got to accept that everything you went through, everything an individual goes through,
Yep.
It's precisely what it takes for them to become who they're supposed to be.
I 1000% agree with that.
And
That
that will be
and
different for everybody.
it will be different. And I think that that acceptance in and of itself, I hate questions like, if you could go back in the past and change A, B,
Yeah.
C, X, Y, Z, what would you do? And it's like, now you have people thinking on shoulda, woulda, couldas. Now you have people trying to figure out what their life would have been like if this wasn't done or that wasn't done,
Mm-hmm.
instead of bracing and being present with the life that they have now. And
Okay.
I think if you're not careful about understanding the power of embracing the present and understanding how important it is for you to live in the now,
Mm-hmm.
understanding that whatever it is that you had to go through, that you went through, that you forged your way to and through to get to the person that you are, if you're happy with who you are, if you're happy with the journey and the path that you're on, I think those are the people that don't concentrate on trying to figure out what that alternate reality would have looked like if it would have went a different way, if something else in the past would have changed.
I agree.
People that fully embrace who they are, or who the path in which they're on. And when
Yes.
I
Key.
talk about embracing who you are, it's not saying that you know fully exactly who you are. It's just that you're on a path to it. And I really feel like people that are on that path to knowing that, to learning that, and to maintaining it and growing it, they don't look for that shoulda, coulda, woulda. They're just looking for, again, whatever it takes to get to the destination.
Right. Overcoming all obstacles. I agree with that 110%. So, anything else you want to cover? Because I mean, this was great. I like this. Was
No,
this
I'm
was deep?
good. I actually have to go
Okay.
within, like, after you do your tarot card reading, like, I have to go. But I really, really, really enjoyed this dialogue. I enjoyed the conversation. I enjoyed the topic.
It was awesome.
The position.
Yes.
And I really I learned some things. So thank you so much for me being able to learn some things from you. And honestly, guys, this connection started in another Facebook Live.
Mm-hmm.
We were having a exchange within that particular live, and we reached out to one another, and this is the result of the energy and the connection that was felt within a totally different, another environment. So, I never discount the power of connection. I never discount the power of conversation. Like, you can't discount it, because there's some beautiful connections. There's some beautiful things that can be made because of it. So I'm grateful for this experience, and grateful for this exchange.
Absolutely. Likewise. And like you stated earlier, when it's like attracts like, and when it's right, it don't take long. What we talking about? What has it been 48 hours, and we're doing. Here you are.
Yeah.
How many times have you started? Hey, you know what? That's great. Come on to L&E, and it's been a year. They still ain't hopped on your joint. You know what I
Mhm.
mean? So,
Mhm.
I appreciate that. Like I said in the beginning, I appreciate your bravery. You didn't know what to expect. Just
Right.
came on here and did your thing. So, I salute you for that. And I want you to pick a number.
The first number that came to mind was 7.
7. Okay. All right. And I actually came up with a 7. So, give me a second here, because cups is actually it's actually a good thing here. And as I said before, because I'm growing in all these arenas simultaneously.
That was cool.
Give me 1 second here to get the actual factual.
Thank you for the transparent disclaimer.
Hey, you know what? I
I can be
look,
patient.
deal with me now, and then 2 years from now, when I have all this memorized, it'll save us 5 minutes, but it ain't gonna change what you're getting. You know what I'm saying? So let's see here. The 7 of cups. Man, look, this is why I enjoy this, because see, the law of attraction is what I'm mastering, and the cards are just another tool for me to help people. They say it's therapy, you know what I'm saying?
Mhm.
So the 7 of cups, right? The actual card is the original name is the Lord of Illusionary. The Lord of Illusionary Success. So we spoke earlier about the conversation being able to either build, be true or deceive, right?
Mm-hmm.
If you said words have power, right? They call them spell. We're going to spelling class because the words are spells. So you're dealing with
Yes.
the illusion, the art of
Yes.
magic. You know what I mean? We done covered everything from people trying to use the words to be something they're not, the conversation to promote something they're not, all the way to the conversation to reinforce something we all should become.
Mm.
And it's the illusions of our own perceptions that either allow us to accept that or to repel it. True?
Very true.
That right there off the bat, that's the perfect card. So, so general meanings, a lot of possibilities and illusions. And we just covered how, when we're in these conversations, here we go. I got the picture for us right here. Bam. It's a lot of possibilities. We
Yes.
think that this is just one thing, but what we know about everything is we think about 0 to infinity, right?
Mm-hmm.
But infinity also exists between the numbers 1 and 2.
Right.
Which is why, going back to the fractal universe, the more we focus on any one point, the more it expands. So they say, yeah, you should look a person in the eye when you talk to them. Until you realize, damn it, you're intimidating them.
Right.
I'm staring at them. They creeped out by it. They're tuned you out. You know what I'm saying? The body language, be calm. Well, to be calm doesn't work with the person is looking for the emotional display.
Mm-hmm.
You see what I'm saying? So anything we say could be good. It's also, everything's a gift and a curse.
Yes.
So there's a lot of possibilities, right? All right. Events is dizzying perspective. Right? That's what this whole thing was about. The dizzyingness of the different perspectives.
Yes.
Trying to
communicate. It can be overwhelming, Jesus.
Yeah. And then you go back to a lot of suggestions, though only one is useful. Right?
Say that again.
It said dizzying. Okay, so we got the perspective part. A lot of suggestions, though only one is useful.
Okay.
So you spent the 4 hours with your friends. They gave you a lot of suggestions.
Mm-hmm.
They may have gave you the one,
right,
or they may not have given you the one that was useful, that either allowed you to go home and have that true conversation you needed with understanding, or they gave you the one that went home and destroyed, potentially destroyed the situation because it was the wrong one. You see what I'm saying? So from a business standpoint, right? From a business standpoint, it's virtual computer games. Multiplication, there you go with the mathematics, because it's an equation. There's no plus signs between the letter. That's multiplication. They're put together. When you know?
Gotcha.
Okay, the numbers. Marketing with video cassettes. Because you're live. You're live in motion, and you're trying to market your experiences and exposures to others. True?
That's true. And it's actually what one of the biggest concentrations that I'm doing right now in my brand.
Yeah. And even in the conversation, we went back to the meaning of the conversation?
Yep.
Live.
Mm-hmm.
Or live, however you want to say it, but dwell. So now we on MTV Cribs with our thoughts.
Right.
We live on Facebook with this how you feeling about the situation, right?
Right.
And I don't mean like literally like on Facebook now. I mean when you're having a conversation, you're giving that live of who you actually are. So good income. Oh, that's why I really enjoy this. Look, you can't make up this connection. Look at this. Good income. You gotta account manage.
Right.
We need those deposits, withdraw the EFTs. We need to be right. You know what I'm saying? So, fun fair, minor show business, but not at television. That's huge in this conversation, because conversation technically is show business.
Yes, agreed.
And like I said, not television. Live. And business brings good income. So if you got good conversation, you're going to have good income.
Yes, I agree with that. Yeah, yes. You're going to get more deposits in your account than you will get withdrawals.
Yes. Yes. Okay, so relationships. Here you go. Now we on y'all last week mode. So relationships is relationship with perversion, relationship over full with everything. Love of two morphiness. You gotta help me with that one. I don't even know what the morphiness is. And then a concession to small weaknesses and discovery in those weaknesses some satisfaction. So where it says perversion, I'm feeling like it's a relationship possibly with the perversion of the truth. And that's where
Yes.
you get a disconnect.
Yeah, and I mean, I honestly, like when the word perversion is said, I honestly don't look at it. Let me make sure. Perversion. The alter. Yeah. So when I hear the word perversion, I don't automatically assume it in a sexual
Right.
connotation. Like for me, the definition that I'm looking at says the alteration of something from its original course, meaning, or state of distortion or corruption of what was first intended. And
Right.
so I think in regards to relationship, a lot of us have a course in which we want to go on, we want to be on, but along the way, with this whole life journey thing, it can get perverted.
Yeah.
It can get distorted, it can get corrupted, and from whatever its original intentions was, it can be perverted into something else.
Yeah. And that's how you wind up bleeding into from this tribe to that tribe and find, because you're
And that's how conversation goes from here. I can have a we can be just like today. Our conversation went a million different places.
yes. Yes.
So
But actually it went a million different places in the same place.
yes.
You see what I mean? That's that
Yes.
infinite. Okay. So now what's morphiness? Key that in real quick if you don't mind.
Can you spell it for me?
Yeah. Morphinist. It's got that root of Morpheus from Matrix.
It does. uh, Morpheus, one who is addicted to morphine.
And that's like a
Let's
painkiller, right?
see. Yeah.
So that's that bliss. You see what I'm saying? That's their belief. They're addicted to their belief. They're addicted to their bliss. So it's gonna kill the pain by hanging on to that and dismissing the truth, which destroys all that for them. Right?
Agreed.
Conversation, and that doesn't necessarily go back to that religion aspect. It could just be the fact that you said you would be here at a certain time. That's why you're not supposed to tell somebody what time you're gonna be there. You know what I mean? Unless you actually gonna be in that vicinity at that time. So concession to small weaknesses, and that's these are actually small subtle changes to people like us that we looking back say that we have made. It's a small change, but it makes a huge difference.
Right.
Like just to be able to say, you know what, I'm not sure what you're referring to. Can you ask that question? I mean, I'm
Right.
gonna ask you a question. It's just a subtle change from what you already are, but it creates a huge weaknesses. And what's gonna make the difference is like discovery in those weaknesses. But what they're discovering in the weakness is the satisfaction.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so let's move on. Health part is like drugs, addiction. What we say, the topic is what the desire is, what they're addicted to. Desire creates the addiction, right? So
Right.
then they're intoxicated by it. It says intoxication, overdose, right? So they OD'd on their beliefs. They've been
Mm-hmm.
seduced. They're intoxicated by it, and they're cut themselves off from everything else. You know what I mean? When a person has their drink of choice, you can offer them whatever else you want. They're gonna be like, "Do you have such and such?"
Right. Right.
Okay, so
Agreed.
psychological characteristics under health is a person giving too much promises. What's
Hmm.
that mean to you?
Say that one more time.
The next part is gonna really, it's gonna straighten your hair out. Watch. No, all right. So we don't want no perms, but this is gonna straighten your hair out. Okay, look. So Person. Right now, we're on person giving too much promises.
Okay. Person giving too much promises.
Yes.
I mean, that just it's just do doing more than biting off more than you can chew. Maybe you're giving too much promises, meaning that you're trying to. I mean, it could maybe be an overcompensation for something. Okay, I'm listening.
Yeah, so we discussed that today too. How it could be overconversation in your belief. It could be an overconversation in what you believe they're saying without inquiring more, etc., etc., etc. But the next part of that says loves to tell stories about his accountable amount of achievements. Conversation.
Mm,
We stories, different levels, the
yeah.
account, right? Or the
Yep.
excuse me, uncountable amount of achievements. We got all these different pictures that form a motion picture,
Mm-hmm.
right? So, which do not exist in real, creates illusion about himself. You spoke on that through the use of conversation and the ego and shutting out, right?
Yep. Yep.
Okay.
Yep.
So now the advice of this card, Seven of
Mm-hmm.
Cups. It's very well decorated, by the way. So the advice of the card is choose wisely. Very simple. Choose wisely. Choose wisely the time and place for your conversations. Choose wisely if you're going to be offended or distracted
Yeah.
because someone's not looking you in the eye. Choose wisely if their body language is really telling you more than what the words is telling you. You know, you got to
Agreed.
know that person, like you said. Choose
Yep.
wisely if it's even you should make a comment now or wait till you have more information and make one later,
Right.
etc., etc., etc. Right? So, warning. The warning with this card is choice is very serious. Do not make a mistake. We covered that earlier.
Mm-hmm.
You got 400 hours in with your friends. They done hyped you up for this wrong perspective. You go in and you basically kick the chair out from under yourself, not even knowing it, based on something that you find out 6 months was an illusion because we're dealing
Right.
with the card of illusionary situation. So the result is time of great amount of various opportunities in your life. Time of great amount of various opportunities in your life. And you just spoke on that by saying conversation is going to get you more income.
Look at how all that comes together. That's a beautiful thing when it all flows together. I swear it is.
It's account management. That's conversation. Thank you,
You're
L.
welcome. I definitely appreciated this. Thank you.
It's always a perfect day. YNet7, I'm Pasha Pyro. Thank you for tuning in the replay. Peace. And
Peace.
make sure y'all check out.
Yes,
Give them
make
the
sure you
detail
can.
again.
Yes, yes. This is your girl again, Honeybee, the Combo L&E. You can check us out on all available platforms, podcasts and YouTube. We have visuals as well, Facebook group as well too. Search everywhere. The Combo L, the little N symbol, E. All right, guys. And also visit us on our website, theconversation704.com.
Peace.